Hey everyone, Bradley with Jameson Douglas Clothing here. I wanted to take a couple moments to discuss the pros and the cons of going with custom clothing when you compare it to off-the-rack clothing. There are a lot of benefits, a couple drawbacks, but let's take a deep dive and see what's right for you for your next garment purchase. All right, before we get started, let's clear up a couple terms that I'm going to be using throughout the video. The first one is going to be pattern. When I refer to a pattern, what I mean is not whether or not it's a pinstripe or a chalk stripe or a check or a window pane. What I'm talking about patterns is the actual garment pattern, the shape of the pattern pieces that are then used to create the end garment. The second term I'm going to be using is custom. And it's a very general term in the clothing industry. What I'm going to be referring to custom as is made-to-measure clothing. This differentiates itself from bespoke options, which we'll be discussing in another video down the road. So those are the two primary terms I just wanted to clear up before we got a little too far in. So the first benefit of going with custom clothing when you compare it to ready-to-wear garments is going to be that the fit of the garments that we can provide are a lot better. There's a couple of reasons for this. When you start with a ready-to-wear garment, they take that pattern, like we discussed, and make the garment straight from that pattern, right? Any modifications or alterations to that garment that would help alleviate some of the fit issues are done after the fact. Okay, with made-to-measure, you still start with a standardized pattern, but before the garment's actually made, all of your measurements and your figurations are going to be inputted and modify that pattern first before the garment is ever produced. So I think everybody understands what I mean by measurements. Obviously your chest, shoulders, sleeve length, shoulder width, all of those measurements. But figurations are just as important, if not even more important. So what I mean by that is, are you stooping or do you stand very erect? Are your shoulders forward? Or do you pin your shoulders back? Do you have a high chest or a low chest? Are you corpulent? Are you not corpulent? Are your shoulders very square or are they very sloped? Are they the same or are they different? All of these different things massively play into how the finished garment is going to end up fitting you. If these things are not taken into consideration, we're still going to have a lot of fit issues when the garment comes back. Since we can take all of these different things into consideration and then also all of your body measurements, when we input those in, that pattern for a jacket or trouser or shirt, what have you, is going to be modified with these things all being taken into consideration, and then the garment will be produced. When the garment then arrives back for that next fitting, all of those fit issues should be alleviated because of all the work we did in the first place. Now there may be one or two things that need to be cleared up. That's just going to depend on the amount of fit issues that you see in the first fitting, and then how aggressive the individual is about trying to fix those issues. Sometimes you can actually overcorrect and cause other fit issues. So that's the benefit and how we can get a garment fitting you much better with a custom garment in comparison to an off-the-rack garment. The second benefit of going with a custom garment when compared to a ready-to-wear garment would be just the amount of options that you have. So when I'm talking about specifically options, in this portion I'm only talking about style options. So I'm sure there have been times where you've gone to a store and you said, man, I really like that shirt, but I don't really want the pocket on the chest, or I wish I had a different collar, or I love the lapel on the coat, but I don't like the lower pockets, or I wanted a different amount of buttons on the sleeve, or what have you. All of these options are going to be available to you because you're creating the garment basically from scratch. The third benefit of going with custom clothes is going to be just the wide array of fabrics, buttons, and linings that you're going to get to choose from. With custom, as you can sort of see behind me, there are tons and tons of fabrics in all different price points, in different compositions, in different patterns, like pinstripes or checks, shepherd's checks, Glen checks, window panes. There are a lot of options. And then in so many different colorways. Some of them you probably didn't even imagine they made cloth in those colorways. So there's a lot of options there to choose from. The other option would be all the linings that you get to choose from. So if you're doing a jacket or a waistcoat, you're going to have to choose your linings as well. And that can be a lot of fun because normally that portion of the jacket is never really seen, and you can have a little bit more of a chance to express yourself personally without having to worry about being over the top. But since it's inside the jacket, it can be a fun way to express yourself without sort of taking away from the overall garment. The other thing that you'll get to choose is going to be the buttons for the garment. So whether it's a shirt, a coat, trouser, you name it, you're also going to get to choose the buttons, and that can really swing a garment more formal, less formal, and you can start to bring the different color buttons into your outfit, or if you're more of a traditionalist and you want to stay with a natural horn button, or if it's a blazer and you want a sterling silver button or a brass button, you have all of these options. The fourth benefit of going with custom clothes when you compare it to ready-to-wear is going to be the different grades of craftsmanship, and then also the different construction differences that you can decide on for your garment. So generally speaking, you have fused garments, half canvas garments, and full canvas garments. They're all completely different, and I'll discuss those in a further video. But if you want to think of it as fused is the most economical, a half canvas is your middle of the road, and your full canvas will be your most expensive, but also the best constructed garment. You get to choose those types of options. How much handwork is involved in making your garment? So do you want the lining set in by hand? Are the sleeves hand set? All these small details you'll be able to decide whether or not the lapels are machine padded or hand padded, etc. There's a lot of variations though between made-to-measure companies. Some made-to-measure companies do a lot of handwork and do a lot of development of their canvassing. For instance, what goes inside the garment, and some of them not so much. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. Just because you're doing custom means that you're getting this really high-end garment. That's not always the case. Just like everything else, there are price points to suit different people's needs and wants. So you have to take some time to consider those. Doing the cheapest custom garment and expecting great results is probably going to yield you with a better fit, but the quality of the garment might overall not be as nice as the same priced garment off the rack. All right, so now that we're through all the benefits of custom clothing, let's talk about a couple of the drawbacks as well. So the first drawback is going to be it takes more time. You're obviously not walking into a store and immediately being able to purchase what you want. It's going to have to be made for you. There's also the time investment to have all the measurements taken, go through the fitting. Depending on the made-to-measure option, you might have multiple fittings. So that's going to take more of your time as well. So overall, you're going to spend more time going through all the different fabric options, button options, lining options, style features, going through the measurements, and then also just the time it takes to manufacture in comparison to an off-the-rack where you just say, yep, I want that one, put it on, mark it up for alterations, and you wait, a couple days or a week or what have you to have your alterations done. So that would be one of the drawbacks. One of the other drawbacks, and it's not really a drawback, but it is a difference between the two, would be that made-to-measure clothing or custom clothing is going to cost more, generally speaking, than the counterpart that is made off the rack. So if you were to have the same construction quality and the same level of fabric, the custom garment is going to cost more. I understand that there are very expensive ready-to-wear, high high-end designer garments that are ready to wear that are extremely expensive, granted. But if all of those features were taking over, so the quality of craftsmanship, the fabric, what have you, or even the name, or the maker's the same, and you were to do it in a custom variant, the price is going to then jump up. So apples to apples, custom clothing is more expensive than ready to wear, and it should be. And I don't even really like saying that it's a con. It's not really a drawback, it's just a necessary evil. It does cost more to make one of something, and with the time investment from everybody, you should expect it to cost more. All right, everybody, thanks so much for taking a look at this video. I hope you've learned some of the different pros and cons of going with custom clothing, and I hope that this sets you up for success if you decide that custom is going to be a valuable option for you in your sartorial journey. Like always, like, subscribe, and drop a comment if you have any questions about what we discussed in this video, or just questions in general about menswear, tailored clothing, and tailoring, and I'll be sure to get answers back to you as soon as I can. Thanks so much, and we'll see you soon.